What's going on, guys? It's CJ aka Dero aka Gorax, and I'm back talking about the Book of Lough. Now this is the Bible for my people, the White Bulls. It's from the land of Lough. I come from a place called Lough, which is way out in the middle of nowhere. It's not really set up on the Althean map anywhere. It's going to be off the map somewhere. But this is just the Bible. It talks about the three gods, Mil, Nil and Khan, and I'll give you a bit of a backstory on it. So it did take me quite a while to actually make it, because it is all written in my own language that I created with my friend Manny back in, I think, year 9 we started this. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. The paper is just basically A4 paper, and then I've just gotten coffee and put it in the oven for a little while so it stains it with the colour. These are all my reject pieces because they've got these straight lines because they folded or another piece of paper overlapped it. So I've got a few throwaways that I use just for mainly drawing on. So far there's only about 4 or 5 people that can actually read my language. The pages are quite intense. They do get pretty far into it. There is a lot of text on some of these pages, and it was a long process. There were a few mistakes. You'll see some of them are a bit blodgy and thicker than the rest, but that's because I did most of this when I was half asleep. But the story's all there. So I'll tell you the story of Lough. So Lough is my homeland. Basically, I'm from up here in Lough. I will draw in the town there eventually, but we live close to a place called Priest's Hold, which is basically where most of the other religions and magic users are sent. It's like a prison, because we don't like those sorts. So everyone in Lough actually follows the Book of Lough. We've all got different versions of it, just like the Bible, there's different versions of the Bible. But I follow the one that is about the 3 brothers. So my character follows the one about the 3 brothers. Mil is the oldest and the strongest and the wisest. Nil is the calm, collected, passive one. And Khan is the trickster and the one that likes to mess with everyone and make them all fight. So this is the book of the beginning. It just talks about basically the Big Bang. There was the 3 brothers and they lived in the nothing, which was silent, no sound, no colour. It was nothing. So humans can't exactly imagine what it was like, but this is the way that the gods told the elders. As you go through the book, it will tell the story. If you can read this, you will be able to get the story. I'm not going to put all of them on camera because I think eventually people will figure it out, and then when I start passing out notes around quest and things like that, people will be able to decipher them pretty quickly. So it is all in my own language. The story is basically Mil, the oldest, wanted to have everything his way. So when him and his younger brothers would argue, he always thought that it was his way or the highway, basically. So eventually he decided that the 2 brothers needed him more than they realized, so he went and disappeared. Now, while he was gone, he decided he would create his own world, which he called Lorden, which is the land. So he created the rock, the hills out of his knuckles, and he made all of the land, basically, so the basic formation. And then to cover the deserts, he peeled off his skin, and as he was the angry god, the god of fire basically, his skin was always dry and rough, so he created the deserts out of the skin off of his back. Now while he was gone, Khan and Nil realized that he was missing, so they decided who would go and find him. Now Nil always argued with Mil, they were always at each other's throats, so Khan decided that he would go and do it and find Mil. Now while they were arguing about who would go find him, Mil decided he would become an immortal, which is basically gods can't be immortal unless they take shape of something. so they have one set form. Now, Nil and Khan at this stage don't have a set form, they can do whatever they want. Mil wanted to be alone, so he took the form of the great volcano, which is at the center of the land, or the center of Lough. So now he is an immortal. He cannot change back into a god, but he will be there forever. So now Khan has gone looking for Mil. He won't find him too easily. He has to realize what's happened. And while Khan was looking, Nil decided that he was going to create his own world, which he would call Lough, which was the sky. So because he was calm, he created everything that was more peaceful. So he made the trees, he made the plants, and he did all that with plucking out his own hair, and he placed that on Lough without realizing that it was actually Mil in disguise. So he started placing it on this strange rock, and everything started to grow. So the desert started getting pushed back, and there became forests and there became fields. After all of that, he decided that he wanted to light everything up so everything would grow better. So he plucked out his left eye, which was made of flame, and placed that in the sky. So that became the sun. Now, while he was doing all this, Khan had actually found Mil in Lough. He realized that he was actually the great volcano, the largest of all. So he went back and he told his brother Nil. Nil grew angry at this and decided that he was actually going to spit down and try and flood the land of Lough so he could wipe out his older brother and get rid of him finally and for good. But when he realized that he couldn't do it, and he'd spit all of his spit and saliva that he could possibly muster up, because he was so pure, that was the pure waters, and it created the oceans and the lakes and the creeks and all the rivers. But he could not extinguish the flames that Mil was producing in his volcanoes and his bushfires and things, trying to fight back against Nil. So Nil decided that he wanted to at least keep an eye on Mil for the rest of his life. So instead he became an immortal and made it easier for himself. So he plucked out his right eye and placed that in the sky, and that became the moon. So now he's able to watch him on a 24-hour basis as he rotates around watching Lough to make sure that he's never going to escape and never going to cause trouble. Now Khan was alone, so he decided that he was going to create something to bring everyone back together. So he created a great sphere that encircled Lough and Lough, entrapping them both into his sphere. So this created the Earth, or the globe that we now see. Now, he was bored still. He had his brothers in the one spot, but he couldn't interact with them because one was the moon, one was the sun, and the other was the volcano. So he decided instead he was going to create his own creatures. So he dug up all the dirt and the waters and mixed them together and made mud men. Now, the men and the beasts were made out of this weird mixture of mud and water, and he started forming them. And this created the first ever people and animals. He liked to watch these were his entertainment, so he watched them for eons, as he had a long lifespan, but he was not immortal. So he would watch them and he thought he wasn't getting enough out of this, he needed more entertainment, so he decided that he would start to whisper in his brother's ears to cause trouble again, because that's what he was really about. He loved trouble. So he would whisper in Nil's ear about how Mil planned to erupt in a great volcano and burn the entire land, killing off all of the animals, all of the people, and destroying all the trees that Nil created out of his hair. So Nil would get upset, and now with lightning from the clouds in the sky, he would strike down at his brother, scorching the land. But this didn't do much to Mil. He loved the fire, he loved the burn. It didn't bother him. Now Khan had decided that he wanted to mess with Mil, so he decided to whisper in his ear that Nil was going to flood the world again. This time he had been saving up all of his spit and saliva, and he was ready to go. He now had the earth to sort of feed him, so he could flood the earth. So in the end, Mil would get upset and start fires wherever he could, burning the forests and turning the land into ash. But this wasn't enough. Khan wanted more. He was sick of watching his brothers fight, but there was no real collision. He wanted something massive. He wanted something entertaining to watch. So he now started whispering in the ears of men. He would tell the first village that they should worship Nil, for he is the sky that brings the rains, that feeds the crops, that feeds the people. and they would begin to worship Nil and build statues and write the book of Nil. Then he would whisper in the ears of the next village that Mil was the one to follow and worship, because he was the land, he was where the crops grew, he was the fires that keep them warm at night. So they would worship and build statues and then write the book of Mil. Now Khan was left out. He wasn't immortal, he never took a shape of anything, so he could still watch everything and fly around and watch whatever he wanted to on this great sphere. So in the end, the people started coming together and realizing that they had different beliefs, and this started the wars. So now we have different armies, and this is where all of you guys come into play. So every time you have conflict, that's Khan just whispering in the ears of the people around you to start the fights. So now Khan had everything that he wanted. He had his brothers fighting each other, he had the people fighting each other. This is everything that he was dreaming of. He never took the form of anything, so he could always watch and view everything from every different angle. But now, this is where the world is. We're in the middle of Famli and Lodin in their great battle. Everyone follows a different religion, and I feel like I've gone into a great amount of depth with mine. I've written the book, I've got more books to come. I'm writing the Book of the Dead, which is basically the afterlife. So you've got Valhalla, we're going to have something different, something better. You know, we might have strippers, I don't know. Who knows? But thanks for watching, guys. I know it was a bit of a long one and it's not going to interest everyone, but I feel like the story itself is pretty solid. I could tell it better, but I'm not exactly the best storyteller. But if you ever want to learn my language, certain people I will allow to read it and learn it. So that's the Book of Lough, ladies and gentlemen. Come find me at the bull camp on the outskirts of town this quest. I've been allowed to camp there, so I'm going to try my best to make it a really immersive camp. Everything's going to be wood, everything's going to be twine. I'm going to be completely walled in, so come down, see me, I'll take your weapons off you and you can play a game of high hand. So that video is coming out soon. It'll explain exactly how to play it, so keep an eye out, and thanks for watching, guys. See you at Quest.